It's time to start taking the Chicago Blackhawks team seriously. They're 10 games into the year with a record of 5-3-2 for 12 points, which has them sitting in the second wildcard spot in the Western Conference. And why do I bring that up? Why do I say this? Is it because I think that this team is talented enough to make the playoffs this year and go on a run? No, it's far from it. But heading into the year, the most important thing for this group was for the young core pieces to gain more valuable experience at the NHL level, continue to develop, and play meaningful hockey. Last year, it was such a bummer and such a struggle, not only because they were just getting destroyed every single game, there were so many games that they just weren't even in because it wasn't close. But also they were just mentally checked out and defeated from honestly the beginning of the season because it went downhill early and they were always at the bottom of the table last year. Never playing meaningful games. You'd go on a 3, 4, 5 game skid, and it was just morale was low. Guys are checked out. They're not developing good habits. They're not working on their individual game. There was just no motivation last year. And to start this season after the first 10 games, to be in this position that they are, it's actually fantastic for the team and for the organization, for the young players, and for the city in general. And even though I don't think that this team is going to make the playoffs, I think being in and around the playoff bubble for as long as possible, being in the playoff hunt as long as possible, will pay dividends, not just for the young players, not just for this young core, but for the organization going forward. When these guys are actually ready to compete and contend in the next couple years, and I don't think it's going to be 4 or 5 years. I think this team's a playoff team next year, and I think they could make a push for it this year. If they can head into next season with the experience of being in the hunt this year and knowing what it's like to play games in February and March, as the season drags, but you're in these super important, intense games, I think that is such valuable experience for these young players. And so it's time to start taking these guys seriously because they're playing with an intensity level that, look, most nights they're heading into a game where they're the less talented team. If you just look at the lineup, it really isn't the most impressive group. But Jeff Blashill and his coaching staff has these guys competing at a level where they're just, every single game, they're just outworking every single team they play. In the National Hockey League, across an 82-game stretch, that's enough to have you in the mix. If your star players are playing like stars and the rest of your lineup is completely bought in your special teams, your penalty kills playing well, it's normally enough to be in the hunt. And so the real reason why I'm talking about this right now is the Chicago Blackhawks have a very special opportunity in the next week and a half here. They're going on a road trip where they're playing 6 games in the next 11 nights. And they have an opportunity not just to beat teams in the Western Conference and maybe leapfrog some teams and entrench themselves deeper into the playoff hunt, but really change the outlook on the organization from the perspective of the fans. I think it's massively important for this team to come out of this road trip at a 500 level. If they could go 3-3 or 2-2-2, I'd be content and happy with that. But if this team can somehow come out of this road trip above 500, I'll start talking about playoffs. I'll start talking about the playoff hunt seriously. I just think that would be an amazing thing for this fan base. And I think it's time to start falling in love with this team if you haven't yet. So over the next 11 days, the Chicago Blackhawks play the Winnipeg Jets tonight, then they play Edmonton on Saturday, the Seattle Kraken on Monday, the Vancouver Canucks on Wednesday, the Calgary Flames on Friday, and the Detroit Red Wings on Sunday. Not only do I think there's a bunch of winnable games in there, but there's also teams like the Seattle Kraken that I don't see the Seattle Kraken remaining a top 3 team in the Pacific. So that's likely a team that the Chicago Blackhawks, if they're battling for a wild card spot down the line, that's going to be a team they're battling with. So a win against those guys would be really important. And I feel like they should feel confident about winning in Calgary. I think that the Winnipeg Jets have not played the most impressive hockey. They give up a lot of dangerous chances. Obviously, Connor Hellebuyck Hellebuyck's fantastic, but I think that's a winnable game as well. Vancouver is absolutely injury-ridden. They've got so many issues, and after that disappointing result against them the other night at home, I think that's an important get-back game for the Chicago Blackhawks. So realistically, that is 3 or 4 on this trip that you circle and think, yeah, I like their chances. Detroit's playing good hockey right now. The Edmonton Oilers are the Edmonton Oilers, despite being tied with the Chicago Blackhawks in points right now. I think if you can get out of this road trip even, or God forbid above 500, it's time to start talking about these guys like a real team, genuinely. And for Blackhawks fans, I think it's important to start going to games. Like the game against the Ottawa Senators the other night was fantastic. Connor Bedard scores his first hat trick. I know it was a Tuesday night. I know people have jobs, they have obligations, finances are involved, but there are only 15,000 people in the United Center. Back in the glory days, in the golden generation, the dynasty team, the 2010s, I mean, the United Center would get packed out on a Tuesday, Wednesday night, regardless of who they were playing. It was just always that way. And I think it's time, if you have the finances, if you have the time, go to a game. Take your dad to a game. Take your uncle to a game. Take your kid to a game. Take a friend to the game. And go and cheer these guys on. Stay engaged in the play. Don't just be yapping. Don't just be on your phone, right? Follow the play. If there's a good defensive play, if Spencer Knight makes a big save, get up and clap. Let him hear it. If Louis Crevier makes a nice play on the penalty kill and clears the zone, stand up and applaud for that. Don't let it just be the goals. Don't let it just be the fancy plays, the assists, the wins. It's time to start supporting these guys on another level because it brings the best out of them. They have a job to do on this road trip, right? Us fans can't do anything about this. But if this team can come back from this road trip still in the playoff hunt, still in a wild card spot, it's time to start packing that arena. It really is because this team's legit. How many guys are on pace to score 20 goals this year? I mean, Bedard and Nazar are obviously emerging into superstars. Spencer Knight is proving that he's ready to be a true, legit, bona fide number one. You've got defensemen in Vlasic and Rinzel that are proving they can take on the workload of number one defensemen. I think it's time to start buying into these guys. This road trip is so important, and not just for the standings, not just for the team, but also for Connor Bedard. Most of these games are in Canada. Hockey Canada is going to be watching these games. This is an excellent opportunity for Connor Bedard to show Hockey Canada what they'll be missing if they don't take him to the Olympics. It's in the back of his mind. If he can show up and perform, I'm not expecting him to have a hat trick every single night of this road trip, but if he can play at or above a point per game pace, I think he's going to start raising some eyebrows. He's going to start making these guys ask some questions. And I think it's not just a great thing for Connor Bedard, but I think that's a good thing for the Blackhawks. For the Blackhawks to have a player representing Canada at the Olympics, I think would be a massive thing. So, look, man, super important road trip. 6 games in 11 days. I'm going to be live streaming probably every single one of them on this channel. Start buying into this young Blackhawks team. I wish I could hand deliver Jeff Blashill flowers in person because I really do think that his coaching staff is largely responsible for, and you hear the cliche of we need an identity. We don't have our identity. We need guys buying in. You always hear buying in an identity, and this team has an identity. They are workhorses. They are going to forecheck you into oblivion. No, they don't have the most talent, but they are going to outwork you every single night. They're fast as hell. They're going to be in your face, and they're going to be relentless. And I think the longer this team can stay in the playoff hunt, that's good for us fans. When these guys care, it's so noticeable. These first 10 games of the season, it's like a completely different group from last year, even though it's not really. Especially towards the end of the season to now, it's the same group, but it's a noticeable level of buy-in. It's a noticeable level of intensity. And I really do think it's time for us as fans to start reciprocating that, right? The Chicago Blackhawks are delivering for us. They're giving us a product that's not just fun to watch. It's something that you can be proud of, right? There's a difference between having a talented team and a team that's good, and so you like rooting for them, and a team that just works their asses off. Like, you're never going to go to a game and leave feeling like, they just didn't bring it tonight. They didn't try. It felt like the effort wasn't there. You're not going to say that about this group, and you're definitely not going to say that about this group if they're still in a wild card spot in January. This road trip's important. It's important for so many different players. It's important for the team. It's important for the organization. I think it's important for this team, for their development, to stay in the playoff hunt as long as possible. And it's great for us fans. So I'm pumped for this road trip. I'm pumped for the games to come. 6 games in 11 days is a great opportunity to leapfrog up the standings. And so I hope they take it and run with it. I hope Ilya Mikheyev's fine and going to be back. That game against Ottawa was a great sending off party. Now I want to see them roll with that momentum. And on these road trips, it's normally when you see these guys really start to bond and get close to one another. When you're away from home on the road with the boys for a week and a half. It's an important road trip, and I hope that every single one of you are locked in for every single game, because this team's back. This team's back. It's time to start taking them seriously. I think that's pretty much all I've got today. I'll be streaming the game tonight against Winnipeg, so make sure you're here on the channel. And let me know in the comments what you think the Hawks' record's going to be on this 6-game road trip. Again, it's Winnipeg, Edmonton, Seattle, Vancouver, Calgary, Detroit. Let me know in the comments what do you think the Blackhawks' record is coming out of this 6-game road trip. And let me know if you're planning on going to a game in the future. All right? Because I need you guys buying in, because I'm bought in. So I need you to. That's all I got. Thanks so much for watching. Leave a like. I'll see you tonight. Peace out.